everybody, it's Miss Marie, and today for STEAM Thursday, I think I would like to try to learn a little bit about some of the different weather that we're going to be seeing. In the wintertime, of course, we see snow, we see ice, we see cold, and sometimes we see fog, which is when the sky is kind of hazy, and there are different weather conditions that bring about fog. Sometimes we see it in the summer, spring, fall, and a lot of times in the winter. There's all different kinds of fog. I bet you didn't know that. I didn't know that either until I read this book. It's called Feel the Fog by April Polisser. And the author also took the photographs that you're going to see in this book. It's very beautiful. And the book starts out sort of like a poem, but there's little facts in there as we go along. I want you to listen carefully and see if you can hear those facts about the fog. And then as we get towards the end, there are a lot of facts that are listed. But just enjoy the beautiful pictures too. And even the end papers are gray, kind of the color that we think of fog as being. Feel the Fog. And this book is published by Beach Lane Books. Feel the fog. Fog rolls in, damp and pale. A cloud ground level hugs a stone and snail. There's a little snail down there in the grass. You can see that fog hugging that stone, very close to it. It swallows the distant, and it's so hard to see in that photograph because it's so foggy, but there are some birds and trees in the distance in that picture. And that's an actual photograph. Details dim, colors gray, lights glow, barely show, squint to find the way. Yeah, I mean, that's a road, but if you had to drive or walk on that, that would be very dangerous because it's hard to see. And there's that fog. Those pictures. Feel the fog. What do you think fog feels like? Do you remember? Have you ever been outside in the fog? It usually feels cold, a little damp. Makes your skin feel wet. Dewy, cold, stewy, dark, dank, and drippy. Plip, plop, plippy. Plip, plop, plippy. And there you can see a bird in the fog. And this spider web, and you can actually see some moisture in the air on that spider web from the fog. Wherever air, moist and warm, begins to cool, fog may form. Remember, so wherever there's air that's moist and warm and it starts to cool, you'll get some fog. Sun-warmed air over sunset, after sunset cools, lowland fog layers and pools. Oh, wow. You can see that. The air is cooling and fog is forming. It was warm before. Warm, wet wind meets cold lakes. So the lake is cold, but the air is warm, so it's going to make fog, right? Cold seas. Fog plays peekaboo with ridges and trees. It's peeking in and out of the trees and mountains. Thicker than mist. Fog can drift, fog can flow. It's really hard to see in these pictures. They are quite foggy. Fog forms above fields of snow. So sometimes in the snow, above it, you'll see fog because the air is warmer than the ground. Fog shifts focus to near, right here. What do you smell? What do you hear? Look at this. So when you're looking at the bird through the fog, it's really hard to see far away, but if you get closer, it's clear, right? What do you smell? What do you hear? I don't know if I can hear fog. Sometimes I can smell it. It does smell kind of wet and earthy. Water in the air cools and condenses. There's a goose on a foggy lake. And here we have another spider web collecting fog on it. Forms flap, silhouettes sing from wires and fences. See all the animals in the fog. Wisps waft, lift aloft, a peak of blue air warms and dries. Oh, so is the sun coming out? Oh wow, you can actually see the fog lifting here as the air is getting warmer. It's clear here and still foggy up here. Huh, that's a really nice picture. Will the sun burn through? I think it's trying. It's trying to warm up the air enough to make the fog go away. Not here, not today, but some days it's really always foggy. And this deer says, hooray! I think the deer likes the fog. It can hide better in the fog. We know deer are very shy. Feel the fog. In a little while you can feel the fog. We're going to make fog in a jar. Let's see, here's in the back some facts and questions to answer. What the sound of fog? Let's ask this question. What does fog sound like? If you live on a seacoast, you may hear a foghorn. Oh, I hadn't thought of that. Foghorns groan, blasting sounds to warn sailors. Before modern sailing instruments, many ships ran aground. That means they ran into the side of the earth there, ran into the rocks during foggy nights and days. That's because sailors could not see the land and the nearby water was shallow. Even if you do not live near a foghorn, a foggy day can change what you hear. Water droplets on the air scatter, not just like light waves, but also sound waves. A sound may seem muffled. It can be harder to tell where it originates. Oh, I did not know that. So sound is different in the fog. It acts almost like a blanket over your ear that you can't hear as well. So that's a pretty neat fact. There's all kinds of really neat facts at the end of this, but they're kind of long, so I don't want to read all of them to you. But I thought you'd enjoy that book. I liked that it was kind of a poem and kind of nonfiction at the same time, with some information. And this author has other wonderful books that I think you would really enjoy. So please do check it out and read some more facts about fog. All right, now in a few minutes, we're going to go into my kitchen and we're going to make fog in a jar. You're going to need a clean jar. It could be a pasta sauce jar, a mason jar, any kind of jar that has a lid to it that's cleaned out. Glass is preferable because it conducts the heat really well. And you're going to need some ice cubes and hot water. That's it. So head to your kitchen and let's make some fog in a jar. Okay, so to make our own fog in a jar, what you're going to need is a jar with a lid. I have a mason jar. You could use a cleaned out jelly jar or some pasta jar, pasta sauce jar, anything you like that. You're going to need that. You're going to need some ice, and I have some cubes. I use the cubes. And you're going to need access to hot water. Now, I've been running the hot water for a few minutes, so it's very hot. And I'm going to fill up my jar with that, my mason jar. All the way, very close to the top, like that. I'm just going to let that sit for a couple seconds. Maybe I'll put the lid on. What I'm trying to do is warm up the glass because the glass will hold the heat. And that's what we want to do, to simulate warm air coming in contact with the ice, with the cold air. All right, so, yeah, it's definitely getting nice and hot in my jar. It feels nice and warm. So I'm going to pour out most of that hot water that I put in there. Oops. There goes my lid. Leave maybe an inch or so in there. That's more than an inch. That's about maybe 2 inches. And then I'm going to put some, I put the top on. I'm going to put some ice cubes on the top. And I've got some ice cubes sitting on there. And now we're just going to watch for a couple seconds and see what happens. It's supposed to form a nice fog in there. Okay, so it's been about maybe 3 minutes, and you can see there is fog forming on the inside of the mason jar. I'm going to turn it sideways so you can see the difference. There's more fog for whatever reason on the one side. Oh, but there's some forming on this back side too. There is fog inside the jar. And actually the ice is starting to melt already on the top. Can you see that? There's drips coming down the side. And so we've created our own little weather condition here with hot water representing the warm air. And the ice is representing the cold air coming together to make fog in a jar. All right, see you next week.